Welcome to the Gyrl Podcast, the show that brings you inspiring guests who share practical tips and the highs and lows of their business, entrepreneurial, professional, and personal journeys. We are more than a podcast. We are a supportive community where women can come together to learn, share, connect, and uncover our ultimate growth. I'm Kara Mitchell-Lewis, your host, and thank you all for joining. How's everyone doing out there? Happy Thursday. Hope you all are having a great week. Let's see, today we have a great guest coming up, Tracy Pleschourt. She is the founder and CEO of Self-MadeU. I love it. Sometimes it's nice to be taken back to school, right? Tracy is the founder of Self-MadeU and the co-host of the Tracy and Gracie Becoming podcast. She is a certified life coach who helps men and women learn how to think to achieve their goals and overcome the obstacles in their life. Most people have spent their life learning what to think, only to be tested on their ability to memorize. After spending so much time, energy, and money searching for silver bullets and dead-end solutions, Tracy realized she was trying to solve the wrong problem. Learning to think of yourself as the solution is the secret to life. When you stop thinking of yourself as the problem and start thinking of yourself as the solution, you put your time and effort into solving the real problem, not circumstances, but solving the problem of how you are feeling. Tracy has mastered and now teaches a simple framework necessary to manage your mind and eliminate any obstacle in life, including overeating, overdrinking, time management, career and relationship changes, and professional development. Tracy dedicates her work to ambitious lifelong learners, yearning for solutions and seeking a better way to create the results they desire and deserve. She instills confidence and a call to action that leads to maximum achievement and happiness. Woo! I'm really excited to talk to Tracy, so stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Gyrl Podcast. Let's welcome Tracy into the show. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's get started by having you tell those listening or watching who you are and what you do.
Okay. So I am the founder of Self-MadeU, which is an online school that teaches anyone and everyone who has ever suffered at their own hand of their own thinking. They've battled feeling disappointed. They've battled self-loathing. They've battled confusion, frustration, overwhelm. All of that is coming from the thoughts that you are unintentionally thinking. And most people have never been taught how to think so that they actually live an abundant, fulfilled, rewarding, satisfying life. And so I have an online school that teaches people how to think. And we actually use some of life's biggest curveballs, like being overweight or over drinking or wanting to heal relationships or professional advancement. We use some of life's more common circumstances to actually teach people how to think. I think most people can agree with me that we've spent the bulk of our educational experience being taught what to think. And then we are tested on our ability to, memorize what was taught to us. And none of us were taught how to think. So I created a framework that is very easy to apply to any circumstances. It has unlimited applications. And I can 100% guarantee you that if you use this framework, you will start to recognize self-confidence. You'll start to trust yourself more. You'll start to rely on yourself more. So many of us spend our days looking outside of us for the solutions to our problem. And it's never occurred to us that we might actually be the solution. I know I used to think I've struggled with overeating. I've struggled with over drinking. I've struggled with under earning. I struggled with starting a new business and being an entrepreneur. And I used to like think that I was the common denominator to all of those problems. I never thought that I actually might be the solution. And so I'm a product of my own work. I've got lots of stories to share, but what's most important to me and where I dedicate my time is teaching a framework that changes lives in insignificant ways and very significant ways. And the more you practice this way of thinking, the more confident you get and the more trusting in yourself you get.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for that background, but also elaborating, because my next question was going to be to ask you, like, what led you to create this? And so you created it because you lived it. And
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe I am a certified life coach, and I don't necessarily believe that in order to coach a client, you've had to have walked in their shoes. I don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I believe that, if your curriculum is centered on helping people see how their thoughts create the suffering in their life, then it isn't necessary that you've actually had that, those same circumstances and you've actually suffered from them. It's just by coincidence that I have. So, and that's actually, it was the genesis of this business. It's really what prompted me to, and motivated me to find a solution that didn't only solve my problems, but really I could go on to impact other people's lives. And so, yeah, this business is incredibly rewarding because we have other coaches now that have learned this framework that, have expanded our reach, and it's so meaningful.
I like that. Okay, so Tracy, we're going to talk through some different areas today. And I think one of the most interesting things that is the first question is to ask you, what is the difference between you and yourself?
So I think it gets a little meta, I guess, because some people are like, okay, I've never really thought of myself different than, the you that you see in the mirror, right? But that's just it. I would, if you really want to understand, like, holistically, comprehensively, what you are and why you're here, you have to understand that the you is literally the physical side of you, the physical manifestation of you that you're looking at when you look in the mirror. It's the physicality of you. Yourself is almost like the conscious you. It is the the intangible. It's the non-physical, if you will. And I like to simplify it by saying it's your past self, it's your present self, and it's your future self. And it has everything to do with how you think about the past, present, and future self. So nobody gets to write the script on your past, on your current present self, or your future, but you. You're the one that gets to do that. And so there's an immense amount of freedom and I think opportunity in that concept. And so spending time to really think about, how do I want to feel about my past? Because nobody gets to make decisions about your past except for you. It really requires you to tap into like innovation and imagination. This isn't, scripting some fairy tale. It's choosing what it is that you want to focus on that actually makes you feel good, having you show up, living the life you want to live. It's a decision. So that's the difference between you and yourself.
I think that was really interesting. I think people, you probably don't think about it in that respect. So thank you. So you talked about in the beginning or the opening about, sort of being overwhelmed, the overthinkers of the world, the confusion and frustration. So, without, obviously giving away too much in your framework, but what is your approach to frustration, overwhelm, and confusion?
Yeah. So it really, and I'll give away my framework all day, every day. So let me do it because I promise anybody who's listening to this podcast, it will change your life. And I do not say that lightly. I have so much conviction in what it is that I teach. And this is something that you can turn around and apply right now. And I know that it will change your life. So listen up, because the way that you start to extinguish overwhelm, frustration, fear is by leaning into yourself, trusting yourself. So the framework that I use is the acronym SELF, SELF. So there's 4 steps. The S, start with a decision. So if you notice that you're feeling overwhelmed, like today's Friday. So on the day that we're recording this call, it's a Friday. So a lot of people, are sans overwhelmed, but let's pretend it's a Monday and we're all like thinking about all the things that are on our to-do list and we're feeling overwhelmed. Okay. So I would say, good on you that you even know what it is that you're experiencing. Some people walk through life in almost like this unconscious way, and they think that the way that they're feeling, let's just call it overwhelm or defeat or self-loathing, they think that's life. They think that this is just the cards that they've been dealt and the way that they're meant to be feeling. And I'm here to tell you, there couldn't be anything further than the truth. You're meant to be feeling wanted feelings like abundance and satisfaction. Hear me when I say this, like it couldn't be any further from the truth. You are not meant to suffer. Nobody is meant to suffer. Pain, yes, we will have pain in our life, and we can actually turn pain into a gift and opportunity, but you are not meant to suffer. So if you notice that you are feeling overwhelmed, that is the most important first step in the right direction. It's having the awareness. So where we typically start with new clients is really having them kind of expand their vocabulary on the emotions that they feel. So many people like overlook emotions and feelings, and they're like, yeah, I don't do feelings. Well, I tell you, it'll come back to bite you if you don't, quote unquote, do feelings. You need to understand what it is that you're feeling. So the S is start with a decision. So, if we're just playing around with the scenario, it's Monday morning and you're feeling overwhelmed, you start with a decision. What is it that you want and why do you want it? So you're sitting here looking at this long to-do list. Start with the decision. Now, there's a few little nuances to this framework. Like when you ask yourself, what is it that you want and why do you want it? The key is answering the question. So many clients will check the box and be like, well, I asked myself, now what's step 2, right? You got to answer the question. So what is it that you want and why do you want it? I want to get through this list today so that I feel productive. Great. And I mean, it sounds so basic to ask yourself, what is it that you want and why do you want it? So many people don't do it. Right. They just sit and spin and overwhelm. Right? So ask yourself the question, what is it that I want? Why do I want it? That's how you start any circumstance, any given moment of the day with a decision, which immediately grounds you, which immediately gives you back the power. You have made a decision. The people who are struggling with overwhelm and frustration, they feel out of control. What you do by making a decision is you gain back control. So first step, start with the decision. What is it that you want? Why do you want it? Second step, eliminate the self-sabotage. Without the awareness of the fact that you have part of your brain operating from fear, offering you a lot of dramatic thoughts that are often untrue, but yet we sit and believe that they are true, we will be sabotaged. Your brain, that 3-pound organ in between your ears, is either your best friend or your worst enemy. You have to understand that if you were to cut that brain in half, the left side is what I call your primitive brain. It offers you all sorts of fear-based thoughts in an attempt to keep you alive. And the right side is what I call your prodigy brain. It's the more extraordinary part of your brain. It actually can watch the thinking that's going on, and it can actually respond. It actually uses intention, whereas your primitive brain runs on autopilot, and it is very strong because if you think of your brain kind of as a muscle, that part of your brain has been used far more than the prodigy part. So it makes perfect sense that what you hear, what you believe, and what you react to is the primitive, stronger part of your brain. It's been used the most. Just like if you are somebody who, repeatedly lifts something heavy, the bicep is going to be stronger, right? So it makes perfect sense. So understanding which saboteur narratives your primitive brain is most likely to have you reacting to can be really beneficial. We offer a free saboteur assessment. So you're either somebody that is more of a people pleaser, or you're a hyperachiever, or you are a stickler like a perfectionist. There are some very universal thoughts that we tend to listen to and we tend to believe. But if you have an awareness of them, you lower your risk of self-sabotage. So you've decided that you want to get through your list today because you want to feel productive. Guess what? The judge, primitive brain narrative, is going to show up and be like, yeah, you never get through any of it. And you've got like far too many, commitments on your calendar to actually spend time getting through this list. I mean, listen to all the judgment and notice how easy it is to believe all that judgment. Nobody's sitting here questioning those thoughts. That's what your prodigy brain can do. But I just want you to simply become aware of those primitive brain narratives. So start with a decision, eliminate the self-sabotage just simply through being aware of what it is that you're most prone to hearing. Leverage, the L is leverage your prodigy brain. So this takes intention. It takes you almost like bridging the gap between the primitive and prodigy brains. So you do that through asking yourself questions like, is that even true? Right? Like your primitive brain is sitting there saying, there's way too many things on this list to actually get done. There's no way you're going to feel productive. You have too many demands. You've never been able to get all the things done. Like, start asking yourself questions like, is that even true? Why is that a problem? Why do I need to get through all of it? Could I maybe get through half of it and still feel productive? Asking yourself those kind of questions starts to put you into the intentional space, which has you operating from this prodigy brain. When you're operating from your prodigy brain, you can tap into empathy and all your humanness. You can tap into discovery, where you start to see all the factors that might be involved. Like you might be feeling like you have to get through this list because the rest of the week you actually are out of commission. Maybe you're getting ready for a vacation. That's a factor that you might want to reasonably take under consideration. But when you're operating from your primitive brain, all the factors are like in the peripheral, and you are laser focused on what it is that your primitive brain is offering you, that limiting type belief that you have to or else, right? That's a limiting type belief. So you can leverage these strengths when you're operating from your prodigy brain: empathy, discovery, innovation. You can navigate utilizing your values. You can actually align to your source. And I know the source, everybody's source is different. Some people say their source is God. Some people say their source is the universe. But you can align to that higher power, really connect when you're operating from your prodigy brain. Hear me when I say, when you're spinning out in fear, overwhelm, frustration, none of that is available to you. Okay? So start with a decision, eliminate the self-sabotage, leverage your prodigy brain, and finish with a decision. So step 1 and step 4 are the exact same, doesn't get any easier than that. But this time, the question that you're asking yourself is, what is the easiest thing that I can do right now? What can I do right now? What step can I take right now that is so easy, it's hard not to do? Now, when people ask themselves that question and they're operating from their prodigy brain, they might take the smallest, most incremental step, because the goal is the smallest, easiest step that's so easy it's hard not to do. But when you are incrementally compounding that kind of progress, before you know it, you have gotten to where it is that you decided you wanted to be in step 1. It's a process, yes, but it's a process that keeps you moving. There's momentum that has started. You're not over here spinning out and going nowhere in fear and overwhelm. So practicing this, starting with a decision, recognizing, remembering that you have a primitive brain that's trying to keep you safe, but it often is doing that in a very dramatic way. And most of the time we're not in any danger, yet we're listening to those narratives. Leverage strengths like empathy. Oh, that's right. I'm human. I have a part of my brain that's going to be offering me those primitive type thoughts. That's okay. That awareness alone is going to allow me to move forward. And what can I do right now that is so simple? It's easy. It's so simple that it's hard not to do. Like, that's the question. And that creates action and progress towards what it is that you most want.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
You did mention about, okay, so there's a decision at the beginning and the end. And I really like that because it not forces you, but it prompts you to do something. Like you said, you have to take action. So in talking about decision, what is a critical step that most people miss when they're thinking about when they're making a decision? Is it? I'm interested in that.
Yeah. So I think I would say it is like the awareness of what got them to where they're currently at. Like, they are often, so if you are struggling with your weight and you are wanting to lose weight, like, not being specific about what it is that you want is often a barrier. So the more specific and the and really grounding what it is that you want with your reason why is often another support tool, because it really does. You want to make this, very specific and customized to you. So we have a weight loss program, but everybody going through our weight loss program has a different goal and they have different reasons why they're going through it. Some of them want to limit their risk of chronic illness and disease. Some of them want to get rid of the inflammation in their hands. Some of them have Alzheimer's, that runs in their family, and they want to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. Some of them want to just be able to fit into the pair of jeans that they bought last summer. Like, they all have different reasons, but the reason that you have for making that decision is meaningful to you and it grounds you. So I would say being specific and making sure that you like your reasons for making that decision.
I like that. Thank you. You mentioned earlier pain and suffering. And can you elaborate more on how you see the difference?
100%. Yeah. So suffering is unnecessary. But what suffering is, it's judging yourself for feeling pain. Because pain is necessary. Our life is just this, I like to think of it as kind of a merry-go-round. Other people will think of it as a roller coaster. But you're going to have the ups and downs. You're going to have, 50% of the time, you're going to be feeling unwanted feelings, but you're very capable of feeling that. So many of us are so afraid of an emotion. And we're very capable as human beings. We're capable of feeling any emotion. That's not the problem. The problem is whether you're going to react or respond from the emotion. So many of us get into trouble when we feel pain of some flavor. It might be fear, it might be, loneliness. We feel that painful feeling and we think, I shouldn't be feeling this. I've got to do whatever I need to do to numb it or to run away from it. And so I know what I used to do. I'd open up a bottle of wine and I would numb the hell out of it, right? Because that was a well-driven neural pathway. I had created a pattern, a habit of every time I felt lonely or bored, I would open up a bottle of wine, right? So it's like understanding that we're actually meant to feel it all. Life is 50-50. The pain actually is creating contrast. If you have the capacity to feel pain, you're also going to have the capacity to feel joy, whatever's on the other end of that spectrum of the emotion that you're experiencing. So you can also learn through pain. So many of us learn our biggest lessons through painful experiences. Okay. So pain is necessary for multiple reasons. Suffering is when you start judging yourself for having pain. That is just compounded and it's absolutely unnecessary.
Yeah, I like that. Man, I like that you give real life examples, and I really appreciate you and the transparency of sharing what the framework is, how to use it. And I think that just helps people to it's authentic and helps people to gravitate more to what you're offering, how you're offering to help them.
Good. I'm glad I can
help. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this: how can we plan out what may seem like a perfect day and a week, right? And just more importantly, how can people start to love the life that we have?
Yeah. So this concept that I teach, this 4-step framework, like I said earlier, it can be applied to absolutely anything in unlimited ways. But I am so convicted in teaching people how to trust themselves, how to create more self-confidence, that I literally took myself through an exercise one day and I'm like, how do I get this out to the masses? And I'm like, what does everybody if I had to think of the one thing that really kind of tethers us all together, what is it that I could teach people to apply this way of self-coaching and creating a reliance on themselves? What would be the circumstance? And all of a sudden I'm like, well, everybody has a day, literally everybody who's walking this earth has a day, and we have we have repeats of these days that translates into lots of practice. So what I did is I created a planner that you can buy on Amazon. It's called Self-Made Day, and it teaches you the S, the E, the L, the F, how to apply that to your day. And so you create the perfect day over and over and over. And before you know it, you're living the perfect life by your standards, right? It's by your measurement. And so the book is $30. It also comes with lessons, like a little program that teaches you how to really maximize this. But it ultimately goes right back to starting with a decision. You learn to make decisions ahead of time, not in the moment. When you are feeling forced to make a decision in the moment, it's going to be a knee-jerk reaction. And remember, reactions come from primitive brain, responses come from prodigy brain. When you make decisions ahead of time, you put yourself in the place of operating with intention, which is from your prodigy brain. Feelings, the wanted feelings, come from your prodigy brain. So I'm out there trying to teach people how to rely on themselves. We use a day over and over and over. These books are a quarter's worth of days. And so by the time you get done with 3 months of practice, you'll find that you're using this concept in all sorts of ways, in your relationships, in your finances, in your career. So that's the win. And that's the best advice I can give somebody. It's so affordable and it will change your life.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, so I'm going to move us into three things with Tracy. I'm going to do that really quickly here. I'm going to start asking you, how do you start in your days?
How do I start and end my days?
Uh-huh.
I start my day with some sort of inspiration. So I have lots of teachers that I love to, go to YouTube and just listen. So I want to be inspired. So I always start. Abraham Hicks is one of my favorites. I also love Ben Hardy. He does a lot of, he's a organizational psychologist. He has a lot of YouTube. So every single morning I start by being inspired. And then every single night, literally before I close my eyes, I just lay in bed and I go to a place of gratitude of what about this day? What about this moment am I grateful for? That's like the best way to fall asleep because now you've kind of got your brain set on all of the things, that you appreciate.
Awesome. All right, number two, what's a goal or a vision that you set for yourself this year?
Oh, to be more collaborative. Yeah, we have 9 new coaches working for us. And up until now, I've been a solopreneur. I've been the only coach. I have, I founded the company. My daughter has now come on board and her name is Gracie. And we have a podcast that we co-host together called Tracy and Gracie Becoming. And so we really focus on, becoming all of the things we want to become, but recognizing that, it's a process, it's a journey, and there really is no finish line. So being really collaborative with her and the other coaches was my big initiative for 2024.
Love that. And lastly, you sort of touched on with the inspiration piece in the first question, but is there a book or a podcast or show or anything that is inspiring you right
now? I love law of attraction. I love that concept. It's a universal law. I think Abraham Hicks does a great job of teaching law of attraction, and you can find her work on YouTube. You could Google her, and she's got tons of free content out there. So yeah, love her work.
Awesome. All right, Tracy. Well, thank you for joining us today. And before I let you go, I'm going to ask you 2 more things. One, can you tell everybody where they can connect to you to learn more? And also 3 things that you want the audience to take away from our discussion today.
Yes. So you can find us at www.self-made, M-A-D-E, and then it's the letter U.com. One-stop shopping. You can get all of our free resources there. You can connect to all of our social media channels. You can look at our programming and our membership. So that's the place to go. 3 things that I want to leave you with. You are not broken. So many people are walking around feeling like they are broken. You are not broken. You just have not been taught how to think. If you're thinking you're broken, that is a telltale sign that you have been taught what to think. You have been exposed to so much messaging that you are believing unintentionally. It's not your fault. You have not been taught how to think. Okay. Get in touch with what it is that you're feeling every single day. Spend time. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? And then the third is ask yourself why. So connecting the dots between the feeling that you're having and the thought that you're thinking can be life altering. You quickly realize how much control you actually have over your life and that life is not happening to you. Life is happening because of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tracy, so much for joining the show today. Such great, insightful information. And even like you said earlier, the things that, even though they may sound simple, it takes a lot of work, dedication, and often mindset shifts to make this happen for ourselves. But I'm so glad that you were so open and giving with all the information today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Gyrl Podcast. I'm Kyra. I want to thank Tracy again for joining the show today. If you'd like to learn more about her and her programs and all the free resources on her podcast and everything, you can check out the links in the show notes. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, visit us at glowupgirl.com. You can check out and listen to past podcast episodes, sign up for our email newsletter, grab some free resources, and so much more. So if you're listening on a platform that allows for you to leave us a review or rate the show, please do so. Also, make sure you're sharing this podcast with your friends, your families, and coworkers, whoever. Just remember that, sharing is caring, and do not keep all these goodness to yourself. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you head over and subscribe. You can watch this episode live there. Not live, but you can watch the episode. You can see the video from this episode there. So make sure you go over and subscribe there as well. If you have any topics or guests that I should be aware of, make sure you send me an email at hello@glowupgirl.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at glowupgirl. All right. I'm out of breath. I don't know why. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much for the support as always. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to pop in and share this episode with us. And also just want to say thank you to Tracy again for stopping into the podcast and dropping a lot of great nuggets today. So until next time, my friends, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.